Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have a very interesting video with the Magic offseason preview. This is a team that I actually like better than most people do. I think that they have a lot of nice players on their team, and there's potential that they could take a step forward. However, the Eastern Conference is only getting better, so it might be challenging for them to become a contender in the conference in the next couple of years. So maybe they need to make some extreme changes to their roster. But we'll get into that very soon. As I normally do, I'll start by talking about their coach. I think Steve Clifford is one of the most underrated coaches in the entire NBA. He has his last job was in Charlotte with the Hornets, and he never really had a great team, but he made them work hard and play defense, and they were consistently a playoff team, despite him not having a very talented roster outside of Kemba Walker. Now he's come to Orlando, and once again, not a super talented roster, but once again, they're consistently a playoff team, or at least a playoff contender, as it was in Charlotte. I think they only made the playoffs once, but they were always in the running for it, despite not having a roster that would have indicated that they were really a playoff team. So I think they should keep him around. However, I would not be super surprised if he got fired just because of the lack of success they've been having, and they haven't really taken a step forward. However, I don't think he's to blame for that. They haven't had a great roster around him, or a great roster for him to coach, and there's also been a lot of injuries. However, another reason for him getting fired could have been the lack of development from young players like Mohamed Bamba and Aaron Gordon. So I would not be surprised to see it go either way with him losing his job or keeping it. In terms of the draft, the Magic have the 15th and 45th picks. In my opinion, if Kyril Lewis Jr. is still on the board here when the Magic draft at 15, he is a perfect pick for them. They need guards. Their only real guard for the future on the roster right now is Markelle Fultz, and I think that he's fine at the point guard spot, but I also think he can play the two, and I think that Kyra is going to have a great future in the NBA. He's a really fast player. He's a good defender at the point of attack, and he also is very quick, and he can get around people, get to the basket, good finisher. So I think that he'd be a perfect option for them there. Otherwise, I really do think that they should draft a guard here, considering it's a spot in the draft where there's a lot of guards that are projected to be going, and it also is a good fit for their roster. So best fit and best available, perfect combination. I think Cole Anthony, this could be a spot where he goes next year. He could be a backup point guard for them. I really am not super high on Cole Anthony. I think that he's going to end up being a sixth man at best. But if the Magic think that he has potential to be a good player, this would be a good spot to take him. Otherwise, Tyrese Maxey and RJ Hampton are two other options. I like Maxey better than I like Hampton. I think Maxey could end up being one of the steals of the draft. But Hampton also has probably higher upside than Maxey, but he just really didn't look good at all playing with New Zealand and all the tape I've seen of him. So, a couple guard options there for the Magic. Otherwise, they could go with like a Precious Achua or Isaiah Stewart in this area if they're looking for a big man or believe that one of those two guys is a really good player. And they could also go with a wing player if Sadiq Bey or Aaron Nesmith or Patrick Williams falls to the 15th pick. However, I think those guys are likely to go in the 10 to 14 range because a lot of those Western Conference fringe playoff contenders really need to improve on the wing, and those are some good wings that they can grab with their late lottery picks right there. With the 45th pick, right here, this has got to be best available. You don't care about positioning with this second round pick. The only reason why you would is if you really needed a backup point guard, and there's lots of point guards in this draft. But like I said, I think the Magic will take a guard with their first round pick, and they also could retain DJ Augustine in free agency. We'll talk about that a bit later. So right here, I just think they go with best available. Some guys I like in this area are Paul Reed out of DePaul. Good wing slash big. He's tall, he's got good length, good defender, good athleticism. Needs to improve the shot a little bit, but I think that he's going to be a good player in the NBA, and I think that it'd be a great pick if you could nab him in the second round. The other guy is Sam Merrill, good shooter. A lot of people have doubts on whether or not he could play point guard, but I think he could. Another big doubt, or another big negative with him, is that I believe he's 24 or 25 years old already, so one of the oldest players in the draft. So there might not be a whole lot of room for him to improve. However, he has won the Mountain West Conference Tournament Player of the Year the past 2 years, and I think that he could be a really nice second-round pick for whatever team takes him. Another option I have is Emmanuel Quickley, who is just a good shooter. He is a smaller guy, and he probably can't play the point guard, so it might be a weird positional fit with him at the 2. But maybe he could develop some point guard skills. Probably not from what I've read, but the shooting is important, and that's an NBA skill, and he shoots the ball very, very well. He was SEC Player of the Year, so I definitely think he's worth using a second-round pick on. In terms of trades, they have a few veterans at spots where they are really loaded with good players that they could move off to create more opportunities for the young guys. That would be Aaron Gordon and Nikola Vucevic. Both of those guys I think are tradable, but I'm not really sure that they will trade them. Gordon, because the other player who plays his position on this roster, Jonathan Isaac, tore his ACL during the seeding games and maybe out for the entire season next year. So I think that definitely increased the likelihood that the Magic will hang on to Aaron Gordon. And with Vucevic, I definitely think there'd be a market for him just as a big man who can do a lot of scoring. One trade I'd really love if they could get it done was a swap of him for Drew Holiday. New Orleans needs a big man who can actually score. That was a bit of a weakness for them this year because neither of their big guys could, put the ball in the basket. And in basketball, that's a bit of an important skill to have. So it would be an improvement for New Orleans at the center spot. And it would also be really good for the Magic because they could gain a playmaking guard who can also play really good defense. Kind of the perfect Steve Clifford player. So a Vucevic for Drew Holiday swap would be really nice. I'm not sure if the salaries match up, and maybe one of those two players is more valuable than the other. So maybe one team would have to attach a pick, whether it be a first-round pick or a second-round pick or a young player. But I'd like to see that if it were at all possible. In terms of free agency, the outgoing free agents that the Magic have are DJ Augustine, Michael Carter-Williams, Wesley Iwundu, and Gary Clark, as well as Evan Fournier and James Ennis, who both have player options. Augustine has been a solid backup guard for them the past couple years, but he is getting older, and I said that they should draft a guard with their first-round pick, so I would not be surprised to see them move on from DJ, especially since that first-round pick would be a player that would potentially be replacing him in the role that he's been playing as the backup point guard. Michael Carter-Williams has been a really good role player for them, kind of the perfect role player as a guy who comes off the bench, can do a bit of scoring from the mid-range, cannot really shoot the three ball all that well, but can also get to the basket, good defender, good rebounder, got a lot of length for a guy who can play the one. And then Wesley Iwundu is a good defender on the wing, can also can't do much scoring, actually. I was going to say he can do a bit of scoring, but really what you've got him for is the defense. I'm not sure if that'll be a guy that they keep around. He's restricted free agent, I believe. And then Gary Clark was the guy who started for them in the playoffs. Good shooter, so maybe they'll keep him around just because he has that skill, which is very important in the NBA with how much value the three-point shot has around the league. So I'm sure that there will be lots of interest from other teams in signing him. And I'm also believe that the Magic will try to make an effort to keep him around. Then Fournier and James Ennis. I think that they'll likely opt into their player options just because of the uncertainty around free agency this offseason. And then some potential targets. I think just retaining the outgoing guys that they view as important. I'd say that if Fournier opts out, then he's obviously the most important guy. If he opts in, then Michael Carter-Williams, DJ Augustine are probably the important guys. Maybe Gary Clark if they decide that he is a guy that they want on their team. Otherwise, I think Derrick Jones Jr. could be a nice fit as a wing player, a guy who can play the three, would slot in nicely there, especially in Jonathan Isaac's absence. As a good defender and an athletic guy on offense, good in transition, good finisher. So their potential 2020-2021 rotation would be something like Fultz at the 1, Fournier at the 2, at the 3, maybe Gary Clark or James Ennis. Perhaps that's where Al-Farouq Aminu fits in once he returns from his injury. I believe he's injured. He also might have just opted out of to participate during the bubble time. At the 4, Aaron Gordon. At the 5, Nikola Vucevic, with Terrence Ross as the 6th man. Mo Bamba coming off the bench as a big guy. Michael Carter-Williams coming off the bench as a guard, assuming they retain him, which I definitely think they should. Kem Birch could be another big guy coming off the bench, and also whoever they decide to spend their first-round pick on. Hopefully Kira Lewis for me. I'd like to see him on this team, but otherwise, another guard. Some key questions for this team this offseason are, will they rock the boat and make a big move of one of their veterans in Gordon or Vucevic? I'm leaning towards no, but I think that it may be in their best interest to make that move, considering this team is just kind of stuck in mediocrity. Is this still a playoff team? I'm not real sure. The top 6 teams, or really all 7 teams that are ahead of them, because the Nets will be getting KD and Kyrie back. So all 7 teams ahead of the Magic in the playoffs this season are going to be good again next season, probably better than the Magic, unless the 76ers take a big step down and trade one of their superstars, which, as I've said in the past, I don't see happening. And maybe if one of the teams behind them jumps up ahead of them, a team like the Bulls or the Wizards, those are the main 2 I could see that happening with. Maybe the Hornets take a big step forward behind some great coaching from James Borrego, who's a guy I have a lot of faith in as a coach, which you'll hear about more very soon when I make my Hornets offseason preview. But I'm not real sure that this is a playoff team, so that's why I kind of feel like making the trade of Gordon or Vucevic could be a good idea, especially Vucevic, because it could allow Mo Bamba to get more time as the starter, and hopefully bring in a good guard or wing for this team. And will Jonathan Isaac play at all is another question. Torn ACL takes a long time to recover from, and this offseason isn't even a full offseason. It's shortened due to everything that happened with COVID-19, so he may not even have any chance at playing next year, which will lead to them being forced to make a restricted free agency decision on him based off of what they've seen so far, and I don't think that'll be an easy decision at all regarding how much to pay him, how many years to pay him for. So definitely an interesting team, but I believe that Markelle Fultz is going to be a good player at one of the guard positions. I think that he's a good defender, and if his shooting can develop, he's got a nice mid-range game, especially if his floater, which is kind of his go-to move right now. So if he can develop that perimeter shot, he's got a really good chance to be a good player, potentially an all-star one day. Jonathan Isaac is one of the best defenders when he's healthy in the NBA, but out for the entire season, and that first-round pick. So the team's got some nice pieces moving forward, and it'll be interesting to see whether they stick in this, make the playoffs every year, but never really be a contender mode, or if they try to rebuild and retool around some new young pieces that they could get in a veteran trade. All right, that's it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again very soon.